So welcome to my session, The Power of Soft Skills. First, I'd like to introduce myself briefly. I'm an academic director and faculty member in a lot of leadership programs at IE University in Madrid. I'm also a director of the IE Center for Corporate Learning, Innovation and HR. In addition to that, I have a faculty appointment at the University of Pennsylvania in the United States and also at Nyenrode Business University in the Netherlands. I'm a reflective practitioner. I've been looking at what's happening in the world, doing research and writing a lot of articles and books. And on this slide, you see a couple of books that I have published over the last 2 years, including books on leadership development, on learning, but also on authentic confidence and on positive psychology. Before I joined IE University, I've been a former partner, a global chief learning officer, human capital leader at both McKinsey & Company and Deloitte. And I'm still affiliated with McKinsey as an external senior advisor and faculty member. So today we have two topics that I like to go over with you. One is a little bit of context, our changing world. And secondly, related to that, what are the future of skills? And what are, why are power skills, soft skills so important? And therefore, I like to start with context. If you probably reflect on the world that we are living in here today, is a world with an increasing rate of change. Things are changing on our hands, actually. Secondly, there's a lot of uncertainty and less clarity about the future. Third, there are a lot of different decision factors that have an impact on what's happening in organization, in society. And finally, the problems we are dealing with are wicked problems. There are no simple solutions. There's not the best answer. And therefore, what I believe is that we need to bet on scenarios. Scenario A, B, C. What might happen if they play out? What are the implications? How can we respond to that as organizations? So this VUCA world has a huge impact on basically on individuals, organizations, and society. And as part of that, reflecting on the digital revolution, and also referred to as the fourth industrial revolution by the World Economic Forum. And this revolution is similar to the third and the second and the first industrial revolution, is a revolution that is fueled by advancements in technologies. Now, think about artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, but also the mobile internet. Think about robotization, automation. So a lot of new technologies are entering the workplace. But also data and analytics play a bigger role, actually, they have done ever before. Now, if you reflect on this, and this is a report from McKinsey, it shows that over the next decade, 1/3 of jobs might be at danger in Europe. And that is caused through a combination of digitization, but also the pandemic, because work is changing, business processes are changing, things will get more automated. And that has a huge impact on jobs. There are many jobs and job categories that are changing. There are jobs that are growing, like think about the field of STEM, science, technologies, engineering, and math. But also other roles where people interact with other people in business and in legal, as an example. But also think about the healthcare industry, the education industry, significant growth. And then also there are job categories, if you see on this slide, where there's a decline in the number of jobs. Now, if you sit back, you might say, wow, is this all new? And the answer is no. Over the last 100 years, we have seen an ongoing shift and change in jobs that are becoming more popular and jobs that have decreased, actually. And if you reflect on the jobs of the future and the jobs of today, there are a lot of jobs, if you see on this slide, that have to do with technology or a combination of business and technology. Some of the jobs did not exist a while ago. Let's think about an app developer, People who are app developers. When Apple launched the iPhone in 2007, the job app developer did not exist. Today, there are more than 20 million app developers. And then there are also a lot of jobs like data scientists becoming very important, and jobs related to sustainability and climate change. So a lot of exciting new roles for people to prepare for or upskill and reskill themselves. It will get me to the future of skills. With all the changes happening in society, digitization, there is a huge need to reflect on the skills of the future. And uh, according to the World Economic Forum, all jobs, existing jobs, and of course new ones, need new or advanced level of competencies. And every single person has to upskill or reskill himself, herself over the next decade. And there are a number of different competency frameworks that will predict what are the competencies of the future. This one is from the World Economic Forum. Another one is from McKinsey. Another one I've seen is from the World Bank. And if you analyze them, they are pretty similar actually. They point in the same direction. And there are basically, on this slide, there are 3 different competency clusters. Let me start with the blue ones, cognitive competencies. You see here analytical thinking, critical thinking, complex problem solving, reasoning and ideation. And if you reflect on the roles that people have in organizations as professionals and as leaders, what we do is to a large extent, we are solving problems. And do you know what? You can become really good at problem solving. Then we see the red ones here. It's all about technology, understanding software, understanding data, analytics. And I believe that everybody needs to double down when it comes to understanding technologies. It becomes part of, and has become already, of every single role in organizations. And then we have the green ones. And the green ones are basically the human competencies. Think about creativity, originality, taking initiative. Think about leadership, social influence, emotional intelligence, but also resilience. And that's kind of what we have learned through the pandemic, to become resilient, more stress tolerant and flexible, because we live in a fast changing world. And the last one here is all about active learning, but also unlearning. We have to learn to do things differently than we have done them in the past. And I argue that if you look at the role of the machine and humans, it's very obvious. There are tasks that the machine is outstanding at. So let's say collecting and processing information, or doing highly physical work. A machine can do that forever. As humans, we cannot do that so long. So therefore, what I believe is that as humans, we will never win it from the machine on tasks that the machine is outstanding at. And therefore, as humans, we need to focus on all the things that make us different. So as an example, a machine is not creative. A machine cannot build a high performing team. A machine cannot lead innovation. A machine is not resilient. So the competencies that will make us as humans unique are very important. And a lot of people look at the difference between uh, um, hard skills and soft skills. Hard skills typically refer to as a skill where you acquire expertise in a specific area. And you can do that by going online, watching a video, reading a book. And I argue that the hard skills are typically easy to acquire and quickly to acquire. But the soft skills, well, it takes much more time to develop those. So, as an example, if you want to become more creative, it's not just reading a book about how to become more creative. It will take time actually to develop those skills. So therefore, what I always say, I like to refer to the soft skills as the power skills. They are so important, and we develop them through our lifetime, but we cannot start early enough to develop all the human skills. And then um, another slide to drill down a little bit on the human skills and mindsets and practices. And they're all based on insights insights on positive psychology. And the positive psychology is a relatively new science that will look at people and teams and organizations and ask the question, what are teams, people, and organizations doing to flourish, to do really well? What can we learn from them? And how can we apply those practices um, to other people and other organizations? So there are a number of these mindsets and practices on this slide. Think about optimism and positivity, very powerful. As and some of you might have studied economics as well. I always say, if we look at the economy, there have been different economic downturns every 7, 8 years. We had one in 2008, in 2000, in 1995. And what we have learned from them is that, we always get out of an economic downturn. That's just the cycle of the economy. To stay optimistic and positive about the future is very important. Also, think about competencies as building trust, empathic listening, inspiring people, reframing. So a lot of very powerful human skills that makes us unique and will have a huge impact on organizations. And I've been in touch with many leaders and many HR leaders. And it's all about, if you look ahead, how can we make sure that we develop leaders with new competencies that can attract and develop and retain people in organizations and have a huge impact on culture and climate. And then I like to make a link to careers. The old career model was that people were working for 2 or 3 or 4 companies during their career. Today, it's expected that most people will work for 15 to 20 different companies throughout their career. They might run their own business. They might become a contractor. So different, many organizations. And secondly, a career is not anymore about a ladder where you go from one level to another level to another level to another level. No, you might be in a role today. You move into a different role at a horizontal level. You might become an expert and then a leader, and you become an expert again. So a very dynamic portfolio of different careers that people have. So, and then that gets me to lifelong learning. According to Linda Gretton, she's a professor at London Business School. She did some research, and based on her research, she basically suggests that 50% of all the kids born after 1995 will basically turn 100 years old, and that's wonderful because people are getting older. But it also means that retirement becomes more expensive, and as a consequence, many countries have pushed out retirement age from 60 to 65, as an example. And now a number of countries are expecting it's going to be 67, 70 years old, and that means that people will be in the workforce for a long time. 40 to 45 years or 50 years. And if you reflect on all the changes that have happened over the last 5 years or 10 years, and we look ahead, we think about 10, 20, 30, 40 years, 50 years, guess what? The only way to stay employable is to continue, learn, and grow, and go back to school and get more degrees and specialize in different areas, move into different roles in your life. That's what the future of careers will look like. And therefore, it's key that as humans, we develop mindsets for lifelong learning. And I've developed a number of them. One is a mindset that has to do with focusing on growth, where we are basically open for learning. Second, making sure that we continue develop and become deep in different areas. I call it a serial master. We only learn something new if we do something that we have never done before, if we are stretching ourselves. So a mindset of stretch. Then what we know too is that about 40 to 50% of all the new jobs are given to people who are part of somebody else, his or her network. Therefore, very important that you are recognized for your expertise, that you have a brand externally, you have a network. It's key that all of us are taking the lead in our own development, in our own career. So own your own development. Reflect annually on what you have learned and what are the things you want to learn next year. Develop a plan and execute on that. And finally, I believe that if we are in the workforce for 45 to 50 years, and if people work, let's say 30, 40, 50 or more hours a week, guess what? We can only do that if we do something that we really enjoy. And that means that we need to make sure that our own meaning and purpose and what we do is aligned with the organizations that we are part of, because that will give us energy, that will keep us engaged, committed, and also it makes it easy to learn and grow. And on this slide, you see there's an assessment that I've made available on this portal, reachingyourpotential.org. And you can take an assessment on lifelong learning mindsets, and it's free, and you get a report, or an assessment on authentic confidence. And again, you also get a report on that as well. And finally, in conclusion, this is an extraordinary time to be in the workforce for a number of reasons. One is there are many roles where you can have a huge impact on society. And think about, again, climate, the energy transition. But it's also an exciting time to be in the workforce because the workplace and the culture is changing a lot. Way more human, way more flexibility. We can work, hybrids, partly from home, in the office. So very different. And then reflect on all the technology changes. There are tremendous innovations in technologies. We have experienced it in our personal lives, but also in our professional lives. So to continue learn and adopt new technologies is very exciting. And finally, human leadership. I've mentioned it already. Organizations are looking for new leaders, are developing different kind of leaders. It's all based on human leadership practices. So I hope that there are a couple of takeaways from this session for you. If you like to know more, please check out a couple of my books. And what's exciting too is that all the royalties of my books are donated to either the e-Learning for Kids Foundation that provides free digital education for children worldwide, but also Save the Children. And feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm posting every week messages, and I love to connect with you online and hope that you can continue, learn, and grow down the road. Wish you all the best.